And our first speaker, last week, Mark Kilroy gave us his icebreaker speech on his tall tale in Las Vegas. Poker adventure based on real life events. Mark is continuing in his effective coaching path with his second pathway speech, where he will receive feedback from his evaluator and then incorporate the feedback into a second speech. Tonight, Mark will be presenting ways to host an effective meeting by preparing and creating an agenda that will keep participants focused and will not waste time. Please welcome Mark as he presents his speech, Effective Agendas for Productive Meetings. Mark Kilroy.
By show of hands, who has been in a meeting that kept dragging on, no real purpose, and people were wasting time and just rambling on? Let me see those hands. I see a lot of people. So in today's busy world, we spend a great deal of time in meetings, whether it's a Toastmasters meeting, whether it's a meeting for work, getting something done. We spend a considerable amount of time. Today, I'm going to share some ways that you can use to help organize a meeting, set up a meeting, and some of the preparation you can do to create an agenda to make your meetings more effective. So right now, I am going to shift to share my screen. And I'm going to start talking about what are the things we need to do for a productive meeting and creating an agenda. So one of the first things we need to do is stating a purpose. Whenever you start a meeting off, you want to know what the purpose of that meeting is, and you want to be able to state that clearly, because it could be for a weekly meeting, like I mentioned earlier, where like the Toastmasters is a meeting where you meet regularly to learn something or teach something. It could be a meeting where you're going to get a report and receive information. It could be a meeting to resolve a dispute or discover, analyze, or solve a problem. Or it can be to get reactions from a problem or situation. Those are just some of the reasons why you'd want to have a meeting. So the purpose statement is very important to have. So a statement like, we're going to meet this afternoon to talk about Toastmasters is pretty vague. What you really want to say is, we're going to meet this afternoon to talk about our Toastmaster clubs in the next meeting for the next month, to organize meetings better for the whole month. So those are more, so that's an example where you have a better purpose statement. One of the other things you want to do is select the participants. You want to know who's going to attend, who's going to be best to attend the meeting. And selecting those participants is critical, because if you're looking for particular information, or you need to resolve a problem, you need to know who you need that's going to be able to solve that problem or give you the information you need. There was a time when I was a project manager in a large project, and I had to have an all-day meeting with several people from different groups. So what I did is I contacted the managers of those particular groups, and I said, hey, we're having this meeting. This is what we're going to be talking about. Who from your group do we need? So that's how I determined who the correct participants were for that meeting. And I was able to keep the meeting going and got the information that was needed. The next thing is selecting the location. It's very important to pick a location. Traditional meetings are usually in person, especially business meetings, Toastmasters meetings. And it's good to pick the correct room. So where it used to be, if you only needed a few people in a room, you could do it in an office, a small office. But now with social distancing, for a few people, you may need a whole conference room. And where you need a conference room before COVID-19, you need a much larger room. But luckily, we have Zoom. So whether you're going to use Zoom or some other platform like WebEx, maybe your company at work uses WebEx, so you need to use the WebEx. Next up is informing the participants. So once you're able to determine the participants and the location, you want to send them out a notice, letting them know when the meeting is, how long it's going to be. And you should send that notice out in plenty of time that they can schedule their time for the meeting. Maybe you might even have to go out 1, 2, 3 weeks or even a month ahead of time to let those people know about the meeting so they can put it on their calendar. Next thing you know is developing an agenda. So an agenda is where you put all the items and subjects you want to talk about in a very logical order. And the agenda should not only include those logical orders, should also include the date and time in your agenda, who's going to be there, a list of participants, and then you put the order of the events and also the items you want to go over or the events for the meeting, along with an estimated time. So as an example, when everybody sees our agenda for Toastmasters, we always have each person's role, how long approximately it's going to take, and at what times. So the meeting agendas that we use for Toastmasters is a really great example for having meeting agendas. And one of the things I pride myself in doing as a project manager is spending a considerable amount of time creating the meeting agendas, because I always feel like I want to be able to go through those agendas really quick, especially in a business meeting where you got 20 or 30 people for an hour. That could be 20 or 30 hours. So if you get them out of there in a half hour, you just save 20 hours or half of that time. So it's really good to have that agenda and keep things moving. And it's a good way with the agenda, if somebody starts rambling on, you can say, okay, we need to get on to the next point and let's table that particular item. And the agendas, of course, should have the date, time, and place, as I mentioned, the participants, and the list of items, as I said. And then also any kind of recap of the previous meeting. So if you had a previous meeting, one of the first things you might want to do at the top of the meeting is go over the agenda or the meeting minutes from last time and get the approval of those meeting minutes. If it's one of those meetings where you need to continually have go over, if you need to approve previous meeting minutes, is a good time to put that on top of the list. And then, of course, action items. So an agenda should have any kind of previous action items and following up with those action items. So if a previous meeting it was determined that Joe had to complete a report, then you ask Joe at that meeting, did he complete what the status of that report, if it was completed or not, and what other action needs to be done. And then one of the things that you need to do at the end of the meeting is have meeting minutes. So meeting minutes is a summary of what was discussed within the meeting, along with any kind of decisions and action items. And the meeting minutes should have the date and time and place, the participants who were there, and the participants who were absent. So noting who is absent and sending out those meeting minutes to both the people that were there and the people that were absent, so everybody knows what was discussed during the meetings, what was decided, any kind of decisions, along with the summary of the meetings, and then any other action items. So if there was a new action item came on that, like Linda needed to complete another report, you put there, Linda gonna complete the XYZ report by July 5th as a due date. So make sure you have that due date along with the action item. So in conclusion, by stating the purpose of your meeting from a weekly, whether it's from a weekly training meeting or to resolve a conflict, it's important to choose the correct participants who are that are going to be there to give you that knowledge and to make decisions. It's also important to pick the correct location, whether it's in person or over WebEx. You want to make sure you have a good location, and also thinking of any kind of COVID-19 situations that you may need for social distancing. Make sure you have a large enough place. And then also informing those participants beforehand what the time and place it's going to be, and so that they can have it on their schedule. And then developing the agenda as we discussed, where you have all the items that you need on there, and make sure that those items are in a clear logical order with estimated times. And if you do that and follow those suggestions, you'll be able to have a well-organized meeting that will not waste anybody's time, and it will not allow any kind of rambling. Mr. Toastmaster, or Ms. Toastmaster.